If you'd like to contact the podcast, the email address is garage33podcast@yahoo.com. And on with the show.
Let's face it, this is not the worst thing you've caught me doing.
When it rains, it pours. They say bad things happen in three. Well, hopefully my three bad things have happened. First, my AC unit went. Of course, it was right when the heat started to really hit us. So I called a buddy and he said, yeah. So this is on a Friday. I called a buddy and he said, yeah, I can come and do it Monday afternoon. That's right when the heat's supposed to hit. Yeah, so it's not a big deal. I could wait it out. The weekend was still fairly cool, so not a big deal. So then Monday afternoon rolls around. I think it's around 1 or 2, and he calls and says that he can't make it, which, shit happens, whatever, right? Like, they can't control what happens on their end. So he said, not a big deal. We'll be there Tuesday afternoon. So I was like, all right, whatever. So I go back to the garage where I hang out most of the time anyways. And I sit down, I start watching the Euros. And within 20 minutes, all of a sudden I hear bang! And it sounds almost like a loud snap or explosion or whatever. And at first I thought it came from inside the house, but then I could hear the spring behind me on my garage door swinging back and forth on the pole. So one of the springs on my garage door broke. So my garage door couldn't open. So I was like, great. Something else for me to spend some money on. So I call around and find a guy from Woodstock who can come up, and so I make an appointment with him. He can't come for, I think it was like 3 or 4 days. Not that big of a deal, right? So as the days go on, I'm still using the garage, so I just have the man door on the side open, and all of a sudden I can smell gas, like natural gas. And if you have natural gas, you know what that smells like. It doesn't smell great. So I go outside and I can smell it. It was really strong. So I go and shut the door so it's not coming in the garage anymore. And I call my buddy that put the air conditioner in. So he comes and takes a look at it and says that it's leaking at the main, but it's leaking before the meter. So he's not allowed to touch it. So I have to call our gas supplier. So I call them and they send somebody out like within 30 minutes of the phone call. It was really fast. So the guy that came out just said, the knuckle or whatever that it was leaking from. He said there's supposed to be grease or something in there, and he said sometimes it just dries out and the gas leaks by. So he packed it full of grease and it was good to go after that. So I'm hoping for the most part that's my 3. It's enough for me. I don't need anything else bad going on. It's funny, from the beginning I always said that I wasn't going to do any like solo podcasts. I don't like sitting in a room by myself. I see guys on YouTube, which I follow, about podcasting and other various things. It's got to be even worse having to stare into a camera the whole time while you're talking. It is what it is, I guess. It's just, you probably get used to it. I don't know if I ever will. I don't like listening to my voice when I have to go back and edit stuff, so that doesn't help either. At least when I'm interviewing somebody or I have a friend over on the podcast, they do most of the talking because I usually ask them questions and whatnot. So I don't know, it's just one of those things, right? So I guess I'll talk a little bit about me, not much. No need to go into any great detail. I grew up in Canada. Now I live in Stratford. When I first got married, or even before I got married, I used to come to Stratford to visit my wife's parents. And I used to love it here. It was such a great little town. And then we decided to move here, and then I just hated it. Everything closed way earlier than Ottawa. I mean, it's the difference between a big city and a small city. It's almost small enough you could just almost call it a town. But it is a city, so... Um, yeah, I was just I didn't know anybody. I just started a new job, so I didn't want to get hurt. So I couldn't play sports. So for the first 2 years, I didn't really do a whole lot. I'd go out with my brother-in-law, who's a firefighter here in town. I'd go out with him and his friends, but in the end, those are his friends. I didn't really know them, so I just kind of tagged along for a couple times. So, but then eventually, I started playing soccer, and I got to meet a whole bunch of people. Most of them were imports like myself, um, people that have moved from outside of Stratford, obviously just in. A large portion of them were actually from overseas, all over the place, but most notably, England was a large portion of who I started to hang out with. And even to this day, the majority of people that I seem to know seem to be from England. So, yeah, so now I don't think I'd want to live anywhere else than Stratford. I do really like it here. I have a good group of friends. I live on a great street. I have great neighbors. So it's not something that I'd really want to give up. So I do remember when I first moved here, though, um, Stratford's known for the Stratford Festival, and it's a big deal in town. There's stuff all over the place for it. I had never gone to one, and my very first one was a play called Noises Off. It was a play about a play, and there's 3 acts to it. And the first act was them getting the play kind of set up, everyone meeting everybody, going through a bunch of stuff, and then the second act, they actually reversed the entire stage so you could see what was going on behind the scenes, which was really cool, and how chaotic it was. And not everybody necessarily gets along, but once they get out on stage, you get the best of everything. So then Act 3 was they reversed the stage again, so you're now seeing the front of the stage as if you're actually in the play, or they're seeing the play, I guess I should say. And it was I want to say it was the last day of the run for that play, and I don't know, it was just good. The whole thing was a comedy. It was really, really well done, and that was 20 years ago that I saw that. So I try to go every year to at least one. There's so many good ones, and over the years, I've actually been able to meet a couple of famous people, or at least see them. I got to meet Brian Denny maybe 5-10 years ago. I forget exactly when it was, but I saw him downtown. I saw him actually the first time I saw him riding his bike around the river, and my wife saw him first, and I was like, "Nah, that's not Brian Denny." And then he circled all the way around because he's on a bike. We were just walking our daughter, who had just been born at the time. He came back around, and I looked at him. I go, "I think that is Brian Dennehy," and he gave me a double take and started pedaling his bike faster, which I thought was quite comical. And that's my memory of Brian Dennehy. So, well, that and being the sheriff in the First Blood movie. I've also seen Colin Fure around town just whenever he's been in the plays and whatnot. I know he's been in several over the years. Comes and goes, so he's another big one. Yeah, just if you ever get a chance to go to the theater here in Stratford, take the advantage. Or if you've never been to Stratford and you want somewhere to go, I know there's a large contingency of Americans that come up every summer just specifically for the play. So if you're in the States and you want somewhere to go, try Stratford. It's a really nice town to be in. So a while ago, I guess maybe 10 years ago, I guess, perhaps, they used to have a music festival. Shouldn't say music festival. I guess it kind of is. I don't know. They had several large bands come in, and there was a promoter and all this stuff. And the Tragically Hip was going to play there, and I kind of heed and hawed about going. I regret now not going. We don't have Gord Downey with us anymore, which is a loss for everybody. The Tragically Hip was a musical group that was such a big part of my childhood that every time I hear his song, it brings me back to the 90s and in high school. And it was, I think he's one of those guys that for a lot of Canadians anyways, was a massive loss. So unfortunately, they say it's part of life, but it just sucks when we lose such a great person like he was. It does really make you appreciate the things that you do have, like loved ones, family, your kids, your friends. For some people, it's as simple as a sports team. Hopefully, it's just one of those things that puts a smile on your face. I know something as simple as listening to a podcast. I know one of my favorite ones is Smartless with Jason Bateman, Will Arnett, and Sean Hayes. I listen to those guys when I drive to work every day. Well, now that I'm all caught up on all the episodes, it's not every day, it's once a week, but it was just the banter between those three is just amazing. It's the way how they kind of go off each other. And it's funny, I never thought that those three guys would have been that close of friends. They're the guys that it just seem like they're opposite ends of the corner, like the opposite ends of the room, I guess. They just listening to them talk and how close they are. Like I watched their stuff on that documentary on Netflix where they were going from city to city doing their podcast, like how close they are. Just you can see how they all meld together and how tight they are. Just I guess if you're growing up, I'm thinking about the kid from Valerie and the guy from Blades of Glory and Jack from Will and Grace, who was probably my favorite character on the show. I'm surprised he didn't have his own show, just called Jack. He was anyways, yeah, they're such a good trio, and they always have great people on. I mean, like they have all the connections for all the really big stars, so it only makes sense that they're going to have super famous people right from the get go. And I'm happy that they do, because they're so interesting, and even sometimes they get people that they don't even really know or none of them know. So it's just if you get a chance to listen to that podcast, it is really, really good. I also listen to Rogan's podcast too. I guess it's hit and miss. I probably go through about 10 or 15 episodes before I find one that I actually want to listen to. Just I'm not interested in the UFC guys or the whatever. I like the ones that have like the military guys. Mike Baker is my favorite one. He's an ex-CIA operative or something, possibly. He's got such interesting stories to tell. Yeah, but he puts out, I think, 3 or 4 episodes a week, so you can see why you could skip along and you still probably never run out of them just because he puts out so many. But I know not everybody listens to podcasts, so some people it's just TV shows. Like I know Friends were huge. Star Wars, if you're into the movies, or even the TV shows now. I know there's a ton of shows on Disney Plus that you can check out. I actually just started watching Acolytes, which it's really good. I actually really, really enjoy it. I mean, don't get me wrong, I liked all the movies. I shouldn't say that. I liked the first 6 movies. The other ones were kind of, I felt like they're going off the Star Wars name, and now they're not following the same kind of, I don't even know how to explain it. Things that they said in the first 6, they just kind of threw out the window and made 7, 8, 9. So I don't, like, for example, like to be a Jedi, you got to have years and years of training. It's focus. It's all this stuff. And then in episode 7 with Rey, she seemed to be able to do everything right off the hop. There was no training. She was better than people that had been training. And I was like, where's the continuity here? Come on, Disney, like you can do better than this. It's just you're trying to catapult someone through really fast without having to go through all the steps. And for a lot of Star Wars fans, I think that probably was a bit of an issue. So, and they were trying to make things too comical, whereas before it was just they let the comedy happen. Whereas in these ones here, they were trying to force the comedy down your throat. It just didn't feel like Star Wars. Plus, they changed the names of everything. It was no longer a lightsaber. It's now a laser sword. It was no longer the Empire. It was the First Order, which sounds more like a band, like a bad boy band. So I don't know. It's just everyone's got their own opinions. That's mine. Take it for what it's worth. I'm sure I'll probably hear this from Kathy, a friend of mine. But hey, it is what it is. So the company that I use for podcasting is rss.com. They've been great. And as I go along, I get analytics. Lets me know like roughly where people are downloading from. So I think that's really cool. So I've been kind of watching as it goes. I mean, like the majority of them are from Stratford, Toronto, that area. You get some from Brampton, Ashburn in the United States. I'm not sure exactly where that is. When I tried to look it up, there's obviously more than one Ashburn because it doesn't show me the state. But I'm guessing it's Northern Virginia. I could be wrong. But which is really cool. Someone in Brussels, Belgium. They've listened to it looks like all 6 that I've put out so far, and they're one of the first people to be on my board. Like I think I had 2 or 3 from Stratford, which is probably just my wife and myself that had listened to them at the time, and then someone from Belgium. I don't know, just luck of the draw that I got someone from there, which is really cool. I mean, if anybody at any point wants to reach out and just say hi, you're more than welcome to send me an email. I'd put the email at the beginning of this episode. But again, it's a garage33podcast at yahoo.com. Yeah, feel free to reach out. I'd love to hear like what's going on there. Eventually, at some point, I'm going to figure out how to do like a Zoom call for audio. I'd love to interview other people from different places. There's someone from Germany. Doesn't say where in Germany. Where is there some more? Denmark just recently had 2 downloads. So thank you, whoever you are in Denmark. UK, there's a bunch. I'm assuming those are all Martin Butler's friends. If you are, thank you very much for listening, or at least to his. There's one from India, one from Australia. Let's see. There's San Jose in the States. There's a whole bunch in the States. It's a whole bunch of cities. Newark, Stevenson, Lancaster, Strasbourg, Wilkes-Barre, San Jose, Bend, Bremerton. And then there's a bunch from, it looks like possibly back home or in southwestern Ontario for Canada. But yeah, I mean, if anyone wants to reach out just to say hi, just to whatever, or if there's something that you'd like me to talk about, I could do that as well. I'm open to whatever. If I end up doing more solo ones, that's cool. I've got a bunch of people that are lined up that do want to come on. Got a guy named Dave Taylor. He's originally from out east. He's like the king of the dad jokes. He was in the military for 4 years. He's a really interesting guy. I have my brother-in-law that might possibly come on and talk about firefighting. I have another friend who was in the NHL as a linesman. He might be coming on. That's still kind of all up in the air. I have a guy from Colombia. I'm hoping maybe next week for him. So far, it's just all been about trying to set up times for everybody because people's schedules, right? They just don't always line up. So you got to kind of take it for what it is or when you can get it. So I might do more solo ones. I might just randomly make them. Maybe I'll get more comfortable with them. Probably not, but it's weird. That's all I can say. Just try sitting in a room for 30 minutes and talk to yourself and see how you feel when you're done. You probably sit there at the end and go, what the hell am I doing? What's going on here? This isn't right. So, or you could end up laughing at yourself like I am right now, again in my room, in my garage, and just laughing at my own jokes. So I'm actually trying to talk my wife into coming on. She was a figure skater. She was on the national team for I think roughly 10 years. She was an extra in the movie The Cutting Edge back in '92 with who was in it? Moira Kelly and D.B. Sweeney, I think. The director is Paul Michael Glazer. It's weird that I remember that more than I remember the two actors that were the stars in the film. It was funny because it's a movie that that came out when I was in high school, or just at the end of high school, or closer to the end. A buddy and I used to watch that movie all the time. It was great. It was just about a hockey player that he was supposed to be like the next great hockey player in the States. And he he's at the '88 Olympics in Calgary, and he gets hit several times by someone from the other team or multiple players from the other team, and he ends up losing like I think it's 11% of his peripheral vision, which was the lamest excuse. If he's that good, there's no team that's going to give up on him. But he puts in all of it. He gets a rejection letter from all the teams in the NHL, and yeah, there's a figure skater that was also she was a pair skater. She was also at the '88 Olympics, didn't do well, and she's been looking for another partner ever since then. And they're picking whoever from the bottom of the barrel. No one really wants to skate with her because she's a bitch. She's not that nice. So then the coach, who I believe is Russian, for the figure skater, finds DB Sweeney's character. His name is Doug, and he's like, this guy's a great skater. We'll have him come out. So they go through this whole song and dance, and it's actually a really good film. You should go and watch it if you haven't. I didn't watch the second one because it didn't have any of the same people in it, but you know, sequels to a lot of movies back in the '90s went not great. That's why not a lot of them had them. So, but yeah, if you get a chance to watch that, it was a pretty good film. I've probably seen it 10, 15 times before I even met my wife, and then she was Olympic pair number one in the film. So like there's multiple scenes. Like there's no obviously up close, but there's a scene where you can see her skates banging against the boards. There's a scene where her and her partner are in the background and they stop while there's a big argument between the figure skater, Moira Kelly's character, and her father, where they're just screaming at each other in the rink. So yeah, if you get a chance, it's it's actually a pretty decent film. I guess I should also mention the only reason why I know who the director is because he was David Starsky in the old '70s TV show Starsky and Hutch. So it's kind of it was kind of a name that I just kind of always remembered. So just to put a little context to why I know directors' names, I'm not an absolute movie buff when it comes to directors and producers. Like there's some obviously like you're gonna have like your Michael Bays, whatever, but anyways, now I'm just kind of rambling on. So anyways, yeah, so I thought it'd be good to have her on just because she has a good insight into figure skating. And anyways, so I just feel like there's been a lot of people that don't seem to understand scoring and stuff like that, and she has a very firsthand knowledge of all the changes as they've gone through. Her brother-in-law is Lee Barkell, so he's a top-end figure skating coach. For Canada, he's been at the top level for, I feel like, decades and decades and decades. I feel like he's been there a long, long time. So anyway, just I feel like people don't understand the scoring system. So when you go online and you see, well, why didn't this person get this and why didn't this person get that? Well, there's a reason why the high-end coaches know what does well and what doesn't do well anymore. So if you follow the system, you get the points. If you don't follow the system, you try to use the old way, well, you're going to think that you did really well and you're not going to get the points for it. And then you're going to be angry. And then there's been lots of skaters in the past that have come off and then spouted off afterwards about other skaters not being able to do certain things and why did they get a better mark. So anyways, I just think it'd be an interesting episode. Plus, she's really into gymnastics. She's a massive Simone Biles fan. So I'd say she actually watches gymnastics more than she watches figure skating. So yeah, so our house is usually figure skating, gymnastics, a couple of other things. That's why I stay in the garage. I watch my own TV, but I do find that I do get caught up watching the American gymnastics, especially like the nationals were just going on, and it's almost like the Women's Network for like the Hallmark movies. It's like if you just start watching for 15, 20 seconds, all of a sudden 30, 40 minutes goes by and you didn't even realize it, and you're just entrenched in watching these athletes compete at that high of a level, and the stuff that they do is just incredible. I mean, I'm not going to talk about a bunch of stuff that I don't really know about. I mean, I primarily watch soccer. I watch the NFL and hockey. I've kind of gotten away from, and I try to get back every once in a while. I mean, maybe I'll get more into it. I just finished watching Shoresy, all 3 seasons, so it's it's the no show, so it's not exactly the NHL, but again, if you haven't seen that, that's a must watch. Now, if you're my wife, she'll say no, it's not. She watched the first episode and couldn't get past Shoresy's voice and how annoying it is, but that's just part of the beauty of the show. You gotta accept them for what it is, and when you get past it, you can see it's it's actually a great character. And if you can get all the way through it, you'll understand exactly what I'm talking about. It's like you have to take it on the same level as Ted Lasso. Don't look at it for hockey, just like in Ted Lasso. You can't look at it as soccer. You got to look at it as it's a one-off. It's kind of it's the stuff that's going on in the background. It's those people. So I know there's a lot of I don't think Ted Lasso was received overly well over in the UK, but it's because they're basing it off of the soccer being so bad, or football as they say. So it'd be the same thing as for anyone in the UK, Mike Bassett. You just don't you can't take take Ricky Tomlinson seriously as a football manager. It's just TV, right? I just noticed the time. I should probably be wrapping up this episode soon. Canada and Venezuela play in, looks like 55 minutes in the Copa America. So I do want to watch that. I'll be going over to a buddy's house to watch it. I don't want to talk too much about the Euros because I am going to make another separate podcast for that. Or not podcast, a separate episode for that. I did a Euro part 1 and I've kind of gotten away from it. The tournament's been underwhelming so far. So, but again, I won't get into that. So yeah, like I said earlier, if anyone wants to get in touch, or there's something that they want me to talk about, or if they just want to say hi, that'd be great. I'd love to hear from anyone that's out there. Just the fact that there's people on the other side of the pond that are even listening, I think is phenomenal. The Belgium one, that I find that really weird because I was just in Belgium like 6 months ago. So the fact that I have someone it looks like consistently listening, that's amazing. I really appreciate that. So yeah, and Ashburn, same thing. Reach out. I'd love to know exactly where you are. Because like I said, it just says Ashburn, USA, which it's something like any other country. There's 1,000 of the same names for towns depending which state you are, right? So I'll probably end this here. As weird as this has been, it actually hasn't been that bad. It's just a little weird. So I don't know. Maybe I'll start making more of these. I'll just throw random ones out there, here and there, and see how it goes. I'd like to have a more consistent basis of having 3 people on versus just 2 even. It's just most of the podcasts I listen to that have 3 are usually my favorite ones. So like 3 and a guest would be ideal. So anyways, I guess, again, I appreciate everyone for listening. I appreciate you taking the time. I guess I'll talk to y'all next time.